Okay, so this is round two. We are kind of trying out again, so I'm just going to hit the little button here. Okay, and this is Brienza's No Best. Hi there, to the literally two of you out there listening. I am Mike Brienza.
I am Laura Brienza.
And this is Brienza's No Best. Terrible. We almost had it. We'll get it eventually. Anyways.
We are a brother-sister duo, and we're here to educate you.
Yes, that is.
We're going to drop all the knowledge.
Oh god, there it goes. Crap, I dropped it. I'm sorry, everyone.
Get ready for amazing jokes like that.
Oh man, I'm funny.
So let's tell everyone out there listening what the concept of our podcast is. Go, Michael.
Okay, so, well, long story short, Laura Brienza selfishly moved across the country to pursue her dreams, all the way to LA, and I am here in New Jersey. So, a fun way to keep in touch, because I'll never talk to her if I'm not forced to, was to have a podcast where we kind of teach each other different things. I always like learning. Laura allegedly likes learning. She went to Georgetown, so she better. And so we're going to, in the beginning at the very least, try and keep it pretty light, pretty fast, maybe 15 minutes each a piece, giving each person, in my mind, a pretty loose idea to kind of run with. So I asked Laura to teach me about the Prohibition, specifically in Washington, D.C. I thought that would be an interesting area. Nope, just kidding. She's shaking her head. Not in Washington, D.C. I lied, everyone.
Just in general.
Just in general. Like we agreed on. Wink. And
I asked Michael to teach me how to turn $100, because that's how much you have in my bank account, into $1 million.
Artist,
because
right?
He's a financial guru.
Yes, I am.
And I am an artistic weirdo.
Okay, so this is, again, our first one, so I'm just going to kind of launch into a few things, and then feel free to kind of...
Well, let's give the people a mental picture of us.
All right, let's think really hard. Let's get them that mental image. There you go.
I mean, I'm 27. I'm a woman. You're 24.
Also a woman.
You're a man.
I am a man, a manly man. 24, out of college, I guess 2 years now. Okay, we did it. Good mental image.
We're white.
We're white. We're very white. I can't dance, so that's how white. I can't. Other white people look at me and go, "My God, you cannot dance." So that's how white I am, at the very least. Look at mental image. Laura has brown hair. That's it. Okay. I don't know.
Right.
Okay.
Let's do it. Teach me something, Mikey.
So yeah, I'm going to teach you. Feel free to jump in, because I'm not going to have 50 minutes worth of stuff. But so first, I have real advice at the end, but I have three less advice things in the beginning. So all right, here we go. So the first thing with literally $100 that you could do is you could put your $100 into the S&P 500. There's a bunch of index funds out there, and what an index fund is it's just something that literally tracks an index. Now, an index is a broad aggregate of a bunch of stocks, and I'm going to work with the idea that you know what stocks are.
I do.
Yes, the S&P 500 is kind of like the most famous index, at least in America. Yeah. So anyways, I'm being a little conservative here, but the average return on the S&P 500 is about 5.6%. Am I getting that wrong? Because, as we discussed earlier, I don't know where any of my notes went. But it's about 5.5%, let's call it. Anyways, so with the magic of compounding interest, if you put your $100 in the S&P 500 index, let's pretend there aren't any fees, it would take you about 167 years to get $1 million. Really, between year 166 and 167. So, okay, that's not exactly the best option for you right now to get $1
I
million?
am going to live forever, but I don't want to wait that long.
Okay, so the next option, obviously,
And mad cash.
is let's play the lottery, right? That's obviously the best idea you could have. So let's talk about your odds really quickly. To win the jackpot, which I don't know what the jackpot is right now, but it's called about $250 million, is 1 in 292 million. So it's about every person in America has about the same. It's one per person in America, basically, is the chance of winning the lottery. It used to be easier, but they raised the stakes a couple years ago so that it'd be harder to win the big number, but easier to win the smaller numbers to entice more and more people to play. Because the larger the jackpot, the more people play, the more money the lottery actually makes. So you could buy 50 tickets. They're about $2 for each Powerball ticket. $100 spent. Not the best odds. That's for the jackpot. You're only after $1 million. And that's actually a lot better, the odds. It's about 1 in 11 million. So you could do that. You could make $1 million. It's surprising. I'll call it surprisingly common. It's really higher risk, but really high reward, obviously. Again, not the best way to spend your $100 million. Your $100, not $100 million. If you're $100 million, just give it to me. I'll make it more. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, see? What was my third? There was a third one. This is why I would love to have my notes.
This is the difference between Michael and I. I have a well-organized series of notes, and Michael's like, I lost mine.
I had notes. I wrote them down on the computers, which I trust, and my computer just stabbed me in the back.
Nothing.
This is why you should use Google Docs, everyone. I tried using the new Office stuff, and
this podcast sponsored by Google Docs.
oh crap! Yeah, I was gonna have a fake Squarespace ad, so they would have to owe me money. That's how it works, right? If I just do the whole build it beautiful, they have to give me money. I think legally speaking. Okay, so it was.
Okay, so I can either invest in the stock market and wait 167 years. I can play the lottery.
Right.
Or
okay. So let's do a little something else. You could just pick every single stock correctly each day. That'd be fun. That'd be easy. It's a little hard to do, sure. In 2014, though, if you picked each stock correctly, you could have. If you had $1,000, so we're changing the math a little bit. You had $1,000 by May, literally by today, which is about May 16th, right? I don't know what day it is. Screw it.
22nd.
I was close. I know numbers. I do math for a living. That's cool. You would have $1 million, and by the end of the year, if you picked every single stock right every day, so you basically buy at 9 a.m. and sell at 4 p.m.
What does that mean, though, to buy it right?
If you bought the highest, that's true. If you bought the stock that had the most gain in a day.
Okay, so if you're just lucky.
If you're just or very smart, obviously.
Or very smart, yeah.
Yes, you would have $1 million by May 16th. And if you held it out the entire year, you would have $716 trillion. So, do that, preferably. So those are kind of my three great ideas if you're able to do it, but I figured I should probably give you some real advice. Let's pretend you don't have $100. Let's pretend that you have some sort of income. Basically, at your age, and again, you're 27. Yep, she's nodding yes. I know my siblings' ages. I would say just put all of it into the S&P 500 at this rate. Because of your, in the nicest way possible, low financial knowledge.
I'm a moron.
You said it, so yes. I would put in the S&P 500. When it comes
to this.
Yes. When it comes to Gilmore Girl references, you got me. But yeah. There's a lot of really complicated things you can do. You should be diversified. You should have some bonds. Blah 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 blah. At our age, just put it all in stocks. Don't look at it for 40 years, and you'll be fine.
But what about if you need 40 years is a long time? What if you're thinking long term, even 5 years? Is there something you can do to say, okay, in 5 years, let's say I'm going to have a family in 5 years, or I want to go on a huge world trip in 5 years. Is that something that's even on the table? You could make considerable money in just 5 years.
Well, if comments on the internet are any source, these people make $20,000 a day just working at home. No, not really. Not unless you suddenly get into a high income job. Really, I'll be completely honest. You could.
Oh, I didn't tell you. I run all the studios now.
Oh, perfect. Great. Oh, then we're done.
And all the networks.
All of them.
All of them.
Even those online networks like CISO.
Mm-hmm.
No, sorry. You can place speculative bets, which are obviously they're higher risk, but there's higher reward. You could put a bunch of money into emerging markets. Generally speaking, they have a higher rate of return just because they have a higher risk. So, blah 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 blah. They're cheaper. They have large fluctuations in value, and eventually they'll be worth a bunch of money. I wouldn't put all my money in that because you could also lose all of it. You could buy options, which you can buy and sell the option to own a stock,
Right.
as opposed to buying the stock itself. So you could say and depending on the timing and the potential for gains and blah blah blah, there's a ton of formulas involved, but the cost for each option is different. So you could say I'm gonna buy the option to buy Apple at $20 a year from now, right? Problem is it's worth about like $100 today, so the option for that would be very expensive.
So you're essentially betting that the stock is going to go way down?
No. You're buying the option to buy it at 20. So you're betting. So let me use a real world example. Sorry about that. Okay, so you saw the Big Short, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Great move.
I'm gonna butcher this history, but the idea around it is sound. You know the two young guys? Okay, so they made a bunch of money buying options on stocks. That's how they turned their money into more money a lot faster than someone else would than just by buying the underlying stock. So one of their examples is Capital One got hammered. I forget the reason why Capital One got hammered right now, but it got hammered because of, I think it was like accounting worries. And the stock went from, again, these are not the real numbers, $100 to $50. And so they did some investigation. They said, you know what, the business is sound. They talked to managers. They looked at their accounting statements. They said, it's not worth $50. It's worth $100. So they bought the option to buy them in a year at $60. Again, not real numbers. Now, eventually, they came out of the scandal. Capital One, everything went away. All their maybe not all their problems, but all the problems associated with this anyways, went away, and the stock shot up to $100. Now, they had the option to buy it at $60, so they could sell that option to someone else. So the person who bought that option from them would make $40, basically, because they would buy the stock at $60 and sell it at $100. So they could sell that option and because it takes a lot less capital, they could basically have a multiplied effect on their returns. So I kind of got away from what I was going to say. My main source of advice would be put about $5,000, actually $5,500 is the taxable limit a year, if possible, into a Roth IRA, because that's all after-tax gains at that point. And once you retire, at an annual rate of 5.6, you will have over $1 million saved. So you'll be a millionaire by the time you retire. In the meantime, just put a bunch of money in the stock market. Don't really buy bonds at your age. Eventually, start adding bonds to the mix, but because you can wait, let's pretend you can wait 30 years, 40 years, just don't look at your stock portfolio in the meantime. Again, diversify, but blah, blah, blah. So I have spent about 15 minutes talking. That kind of went up and around, really fast, really simple, potentially not helpful or interesting at all. But
well, the main takeaway is that I'm too poor to really do much of
Yeah.
anything yet.
So just save your money, you know?
Save my money.
I would honestly, for real advice for you, is make an Excel sheet or a Google Doc of all your expenses and all of the money you come in and look at what you're buying. Because I guarantee you, all of us in the world are buying just the dumbest things that will, once we write it down, we go, oh God, have I really been spending $100 a month at Starbucks or...
That's a great use of my money.
Yeah, I know, but like, oh my God, I bought so many double stuffed Oreos. Why? And just save your money. That's the big half the way to becoming rich is not spending too much money.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna end it there.
Okay.
I'm gonna.
And let's tell the world that Michael might in the future open up his own.
Nope, let's not.
No? Okay.
Yeah, let's not. That was fun, everyone. All right, Laura Brienza, I think you have 14 minutes left on this recording thing I have, so tell me about the prohibition.
Alrighty. Okay. So, everybody knows the basics. America was dry for about a decade. The 18th Amendment took effect in 1920, and it banned the manufacture, sale, and transportation of alcohol. Prohibition ended in 1933 with the 21st Amendment, which repealed the 18th. You probably know the basics. Everybody knows these buzzwords like bootlegging, moonshine, gangsters like Al Capone, bathtub gin. But hopefully we can get a little bit more in depth. And I want to focus on some of the things that maybe are not quite as prevalent in social awareness. So let's backtrack to the 1820s, 30s, 40s, when these perfectionist movements were taking over. We're not taking over, we're beginning in the United States. So these movements essentially were trying to eradicate evil from our societies. And that meant...
And they did it, right? Good job, everyone.
No, so things like the abolitionist movement, which we can all agree was fantastic. Mm-hmm. Get rid of slavery. It's the worst thing ever. Also considered on par was alcohol. So I don't think they were quite as evil, but a lot of the people who thought slavery was evil thought alcohol was evil. So both these movements were springing up. We refer to this anti-alcohol movement as the temperance movement. And there are two main groups that are credited with really pushing this movement. That's the Women's Christian Temperance Union and the Anti-Saloon League. But before we talk about them, I just want to give you a little bit more context. So in the early, mid-1800s, people are drinking just a ton of alcohol. So in 1830, the average American who was over 15 years old drank 7 gallons of pure alcohol a year. That is 3 times what the average American is drinking today.
What about under 15?
Under 15, probably like 6.5 gallons. But
oh, okay, that's fine though. That's
I don't have the stats on that. But we have to remember at this time in history, we didn't really have advanced plumbing and water, and people were just drinking alcohol a whole lot more because it was what was available, right?
Sure.
Water wasn't quite as safe to drink. I mean, the founding fathers were drunk all the time.
Fuck George, fuck English people.
Drunk history is like pretty darn historically accurate.
So they were just like drunk. They were calling up their exes like, England, you don't understand. All right, we gotta be free. We have to be free. Okay, sorry.
Exactly. So this idea that alcohol really was a big problem is very true. I mean, people were drinking just a whole lot, and there was this fear that would really damage society, and it was damaging family structure especially, which is why women really led the temperance movement. This was a time period when women didn't really have much economic power, so they relied on their husbands to make money and bring it home. And instead, if their husband was out, drinking away his wages at the pub, he wasn't bringing home food for their kids. Or, alcohol doesn't exactly lead to great relationships sometimes. There's domestic abuse, there's bad communication. So it was a huge problem, and women were at the forefront of trying to reduce alcohol consumption. Also, in the 1800s, we had just a ton of immigration to this country. And so a lot of these slums that were immigrant neighborhoods, alcohol played a huge role in making them very rowdy environments. And for a lot of racists, and let's remember that every single ethnic group who came to the United States was persecuted. The Irish, the Italians, the Germans, like everybody hated everybody at one point. So, but especially the Germans had quite a culture of alcohol consumption. They built a lot of breweries in the United States. And so, especially when World War I came around and there was this anti-German sentiment, it was kind of like the transitive property. I think that's the right one. Germans are bad. They drink alcohol, so alcohol's bad.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah. So, the Women's Christian Temperance Union also saw alcohol as a source of a lot of other social problems, whether that's the living conditions of immigrants. They saw it as a problem with child labor laws, with education, women's rights. They kind of bundled alcohol into, being responsible for a lot of things that were wrong in the country. And they coined this term, home protection. So it was kind of a marketing strategy to say, hey, ladies,
Hey, ladies.
Ladies. For women that were not really confident enough to stand up to their husbands, or living in a society in which the man's say ruled, they coined this term, home protection, saying this is a way to protect your home, and since the home was the woman's domain, she could get behind protecting the home. So it's pretty good marketing, I think. So they were a huge deal, but the Anti-Saloon League, which was established in 1893, was perhaps even bigger. They were a single issue. So the Women's Christian Temperance Union was kind of all over the place. And the Anti-Saloon League was this single issue group. And they were led by Wayne Wheeler. And they made a lot of progress because they allied with just about everybody. They allied with both Democrats and Republicans, with both the Ku Klux Klan and the NAACP.
What?
Like anybody who was on board with getting rid of alcohol, they were like, all right, let's team up. So early 20th century, temperance movement has a lot of support. A lot of states had passed dry laws themselves, but the federal government then entered the picture in January of 1920.
Do you know how many states had already dry laws before it became federal, by any chance?
I do not know exactly how many.
That's fine.
All right, so 1920, we've got President Hoover in office, and he called prohibition, quote, a great social and economic experiment, noble in motive and far-reaching in purpose. So he gave rise to this nickname for prohibition, which was the Noble Experiment. And let's remember that it banned the sale and distribution of alcohol, but not drinking it. So it's kind of like today how a kid can't buy cigarettes, but a kid can smoke them. It's kind of stupid. So people who supported prohibition thought it was going to really, really help the economy. They thought that without alcohol, sales of other goods like juices and sodas would go up. They thought that real estate prices would soar because neighborhoods were cleaned up. They thought, people would go to the movies more instead of going out drinking. But basically, they were wrong. None of that happened. The economy really tanked, both in the private sector and the government. Private sector-wise, jobs really suffered, especially restaurants closing that couldn't survive without alcohol sales, and a lot of industries that were adjacent to alcohol, like barrel makers, truckers, waiters, lots of people were out of a job. But interestingly, the government lost a ton of money. I'm getting a note from Michael to hurry up, but I got a lot more to say.
Well, we have 3 minutes, so too bad.
It could be longer.
I have to edit together a podcast. God, you're killing me.
All right. So, what was I saying? Before Prohibition, a lot of states needed liquor taxes to pad their budgets. And after Prohibition, during Prohibition, they weren't getting that money, so they really struggled. The feds lost $11 billion in lost tax revenue.
Wow.
$11 billion.
That's a ton. And that's in old money dollars, right? Not today's.
So,
wow. That's crazy.
Plus, it cost them $300 million to enforce it. And also, they didn't even do a good job enforcing it. So it's just like a whole lot of money just lost every which way. So yeah, enforcement was really lame. Basically, if you wanted alcohol, you could find it. And one of the most interesting ways I think you could get alcohol that I didn't know about was from your doctor. So today we have, medicinal marijuana. You can get a medical prescription for marijuana. And it's kind of the same thing during Prohibition for alcohol. And it had been used medicinally for years. I mean, in ancient civilizations like ancient Rome, Greece, Egypt. In the 19th century here, it was used to soothe toothaches, coughs.
Boredom,
yep. I think even our own father, I think grandma used to rub alcohol on their gums when they were babies.
Yeah, puts them to sleep.
So, essentially there was a medical exemption from the 18th Amendment. So doctors got their special issue prescription pads from the U.S. Treasury Department and prescribed alcohol to their patients. And a lot of doctors really used this to their advantage to drum up more business. And a lot of bootleggers ran pharmacies. Essentially, the number of registered pharmacies in New York State tripled during Prohibition. Wow. And I don't think that is a coincidence. Okay, there was also a religious exemption. So priests and rabbis could get their hands on alcohol, and so a lot of church attendance was way up.
Okay, went up, right? Okay. That's funny.
Oh yeah, more people were at church, more people were at
praise the Lord on a Saturday night. Let's get turned. Oh man.
Exactly.
Yeah, priest, father, blood of, no, sorry, body of Jesus, whatever. Let's get that blood out here. Okay. Interesting.
And then there was also quite a bit of home brewing. These grape-making companies actually sold kits, and on their instructions, it was so funny, they would say things like, now remember, don't leave this out for too long, because then it'll turn into wine. So it's like, nod, here's how you make wine at your house. Okay, and then obviously everybody knows about, bootlegging and speakeasies, and since we're low on time, I'll skip over that. Right to
one sec. Here's my idea. Just give you a little bit more time. We have a minute 30 left on this program I have. I guess it's free. So my current plan is I'm gonna hit pause, and then I'm just gonna pick up where we started off, and I'll cut it together. So, all right. So I'm gonna hit